As Frazier. I'm joined alongside Peter Burns, host at SEC Network, covering all things SEC. Of course, he covers the South Carolina Gamecocks. First of all, we appreciate the time, Peter.
Man, I'm fired up. I mean, again, we're right in the middle of doing our season preview shows right now, and I'm like, all right, is South Carolina, Virginia Tech, like, can that game happen right here, right now? Because I don't know if there's more hype around a team in all of college football than what's happening right now after the Netflix documentary and after the success of Lenore Sellers last season.
Yeah, I'm sure you spent a lot of time talking to head coach Shane Beamer at SEC Media Days and other times. I spoke to him recently and I said, Coach, how is it different going into a season? They were ranked number 13 in the AP poll, their highest in 11 years. What do you think and what have you heard about how they're embracing those higher expectations after the 9 wins a season ago?
Well, they love it in the fact of people are starting to understand that he is building something special in Columbia. And that's why I was so glad about the Netflix show is it gave people an opportunity to see why guys like Lenoris want to stick around, why guys want to come out there and play for him, why a lot of coaches, former SEC or former college football head coaches want to come out there and join that staff is because of what Shane has built. And I vividly remember, 2 years ago when they did not have the season that they wanted to, he was almost despondent, and he was so upset because he felt like he let that fan base down. He's like, that's not going to happen again. And so the fact that they were able to build it almost a college football playoff team last year, and I think that they're going to be sneaky good again this year.
How crucial is it for them to get off to a fast start in Atlanta versus Virginia Tech, not only for their season, but the bragging rights, SEC, ACC, when it comes later in the year on who gets into the college football playoff, etc.?
Every part of it. I mean, you're going back to an SEC right now that has a really big week one. When you look at Texas and Ohio State, you look at LSU and Clemson, Alabama and Florida State. But make no mistake about it, South Carolina, Virginia Tech is huge because they need to get off to a quick start. You need to showcase that, hey, that this wasn't a flash in the pan, that was one great season, and that you can't back it up. And I think that's why so many people are excited about Lenore Sellers and in just the future of Gamecock football is to be like, this is the new norm. This is the new reality of what Shane Beamer brings to the Gamecocks, as opposed to, well, okay, we had a good season last year.
Lenore Sellers, very interesting, fascinating story. 2 years ago, he's backing up Spencer Rattler. He steps in as a first-year starter, has 25 total touchdowns, over 2,500 passing yards. Is there another ceiling that he can reach in year two as the starter? Is he going to be in New York for the Heisman later in December?
I always hate to say that, simply for the fact that there's so much that can happen throughout the course of a season. But when you look at the attributes of someone that feels like they're in command of the situation, Lenore Sellers is that guy. When I walked with him and we talked over at SEC Media Days, there was no doubt that he is a true leader. And it's one of the reasons why that so many pundits, and that's the reason why. I mean, think about how many great quarterbacks are in this conference this year, and he was the preseason pick as first team All SEC. Is because they believe in him, and I think the biggest deal that we saw of him taking that jump in his second year as a starter is the jump that we saw pretty much the second half of the season. At the first part of the season last year, some ups and downs, and then all of a sudden everything seemed to click. And once the game gets slower for Lenore's, that's going to be scary for a whole lot of defenses across the country.
A couple more for me. What's your biggest question with this team, whether it's Rasul Faison, if he gets cleared and the depth
Yeah.
of that running back room behind him? Is Nick Harbor and the receiving core, the defense with five players going to the NFL draft? What's your biggest question surrounding South Carolina?
Yeah, I think it's one of the things is I want to see Dylan Stewart in year two, right? Because last year it worked so well with Dylan just breaking out and being a star, but he also had Kyle Kennard on the other side of it. There were a lot of really good players that kind of a team effort, and Clayton White is the defensive coordinator who is probably going to be a head coach here sooner or later. I love that guy. That he really had, a good kind of, X and O's with those guys. This year, I don't know if they still have the depth that they had, right? Specifically at linebacker as well, and even up front. So the question is, can Dylan Stewart still do what he did, was be a disruptor last year, this upcoming season, when he doesn't have that bona fide star yet on the other side of him?
Yeah, a lot of people believe that it's crucial for South Carolina to go 5-0. Just looking at their schedule here, they have their first 5 games. They open up against Vanderbilt and SEC play, Missouri, Kentucky, and then here goes the gauntlet: LSU, Oklahoma, Alabama, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, a week off, and then you have Clemson. Oh, how do you see? Yeah, I see you shaking your
Yeah.
head.
I
One of the
mean,
tough.
that
How does this shake out for South Carolina?
it's just a SEC football, right? And if you don't like it, then don't sign up for it. And I think that's the thing that, you're not going to complain about. And that's the one thing I've always liked about South Carolina under Shane Beamer is the fact that there's been so much changes in schedule, so much changes in NIL and transfer portal, and all these rules. A lot of coaches complain about it. Not Shane. Shane kind of runs forward and goes, "All right, here's the problem. How do we solve it, and how do we make it better?" So again, every single one of these coaches knows how tough that schedule is going to be, especially how good Clemson is going to be on the other side of it. But I mean, we all already know what happened last year, right? I mean, like the right guys won. So now we're hoping that it happens again. And then that'd be great. A great way to kick off the season. Start off with beating the ACC and end off beating the ACC as well.
That would be something. Finally, give me your juicy South Carolina take that hasn't made the air. You say behind closed doors, and now it's going to come to light right now.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that the LSU South Carolina rematch is going to be one of the best games of the year. And I'll be honest with you, and I say this as a guy that's born and raised in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. South Carolina should have won that game last year. I mean, they were kind of
Say
robbed
that one more time.
when it came. South Carolina should have won that game last year. I want to say they might have been a little bit robbed of some of the calls in there. So I think I can't wait to see that 1-2 matchup, and I think it could be a top 10 matchup by the time we get to that game in Tiger Stadium this year. It's going to be a wild one, and I can't wait for it.
All right, we appreciate it. Peter Burns, SEC Network host, giving us some great perspective. We appreciate your time.